Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
This is the greatest show!
And now, here's your host, Clint Arthur.
All right, everybody. This is Clint Arthur, and welcome to the greatest show of all time, right here on 77 WABC Radio in New York City.
And now the conclusion of my epic interview with Dr. Drew at CNN Center in Atlanta.
CNN went berserk and silenced me, and I was not allowed. I have not been allowed back since. Which was sort of surprising to me because that's not how I experienced that.
I had a similar thing.
Yeah.
I went on CNN and we were talking about Hillary, and remember the whole hot sauce thing?
Yeah.
And I had a bottle of hot sauce with me.
Yeah.
And I have not been on CNN since.
It's really
Same thing.
It's really weird. Yeah. That to me that was weird because that was not how I experienced them as an employee, as somebody working here. No one ever said only deal with these subjects or only deal with these things. We were dealing with a lot of stuff.
Translateral thrombosis and hot sauce, those are the topics not to talk about. Okay, that's obviously it.
Intranuclear ophthalmoplegia is off the record. But the point is, he was canceled on HLN because that became the public discourse. Even the New York Times has published that a couple of times.
When it wasn't
true.
It
was not true. I'd already been canceled, and this was just a bad outing for me. And
sorry, Dr. Drew.
Which is what happens, man. And now
it's brutal.
And so in the midst of all this, what's going on with all of us now, as we sit distancing from each other, I've started doing more digital stuff, more podcasting. My wife built a little studio in her home, and we do a stream out of it every day. And I felt like I was the French underground, sort of broadcasting out to the to the resistance. But it gave me a purpose, And the digital world is growing fast. It is probably going to, it's really where we should be focusing our attention, and it's quickly usurping the more traditional outlets. I don't know quite how it's all going to come together yet, but we really need to be there, podcasting and just putting it out, put the content out, and see where it gets traction.
Podcast is great.
Podcasting is great. Streams are great. Other people's podcasts, just
guesting
on stuff. Just get out there. There's lots of opportunity, and it's not. It doesn't have the same. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. He interviews somebody for 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
Talk about rhythm. That's a different rhythm. It's very different. You don't have to worry on podcasting. You do not have to worry about the rhythm. You do have to worry about being appealing and being clear and all these things. But it's just a long form conversation, and who's better at that than us? We should be doing that.
How did Akshay Nanavati get on your show? He's a student of mine.
Oh, a friend of mine. This world is another thing. Me going, okay. A friend of mine is sort of a Tony Robbins type of guy. He comes from he comes from this horrible world of ritualized sexual and physical abuse, and he was literally, actively suicidal at age 10, in a chronic psychiatric setting, and turned it around and became this amazing guy. And he's got kids, and he sort of wants to be an inspiration to other people. So he's sort of trying to figure out how to do inspirational kinds of materials for people. And he wanted to bring together a group of people up at a ranch in Idaho that are sort of similar to him. Akshay was one of them. And I took to Akshay right away, and
cool guy,
very cool guy, and spent time in Wes, who's the guy who set the whole thing up, did a lot of mingling and events and things where we all were sort of challenged to.
Is that like a men's event? Was that?
No, it was both. Everybody was there, but that was Akshay, and I have great respect for him.
Cool. So you met him at an event.
And
liked
I was like,
him.
we got to get you on my stuff. We got to get you on some stuff.
Oh yeah, Fearvana, great thing.
Great book.
Any tips for a new mom on raising secure, confident kids? Just briefly.
Don't do what we did in raising millennials. Because we did. I was talking with because our kids are secure and confident and wonderful and super highly educated and all that stuff. But they didn't. Somewhere we didn't let them fail enough, and we didn't let them struggle out in the world enough. And so, don't forget failure. Failure is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. Any thoughts on nanotech in medicine and CBD hemp oil?
CBD, I worry about the higher doses, at the 200 milligrams and above. People are getting psychoactive effects, so to say it's not psychoactive is false. But I do know a lot of people that are getting excellent benefit for anxiety and sleep and pain at lower doses, like 50 milligrams. So I don't object to it as long as it's free of THC. Whether or not an addict should be using it is still questionable. I've allowed some of my patients to do it. But again, this is not fully studied yet. I took it, it disrupted my sleep. It was no good. My wife took it, she got panic attacks. So it's not as though, hey, we know how to use this yet. So.
Right. Any advice for diabetics who are ignoring their diabetes? Any advice on how to get them to not ignore their diabetes? Uh-oh, he likes this one.
So if you're talking to a group that's ignoring their diabetes, you are probably talking to an adolescent, and you are probably very likely talking to an adolescent male. And so right? How many episodes of DKA you see in adolescents because they decide that adolescent males? A lot of them.
There's just a lot of people ignoring their diabetes. Adults.
That's crazy. That's nutty to me. But the adolescent male, I just tell them their penis is going to stop working, and they get right with it. They get right onto it.
Yeah.
So that's the group. In terms of older adults, you can use the same thing on the men. We're pretty much like 10-year-old boys all the way through the lifespan, to be fair. I think ultimately they
got him right out of his chair for that one. Yeah.
I knew I had to move around for that one. But I'm thinking, it's denial, right? It's denial. And denial is a massive problem right now. I mean, the reason we have, I believe that, because I work in the world of real serious denial with addicts, and I believe denial starts to drift into anosognosia. I really believe there's an organic basis to some denial, particularly in a psychiatric setting. So, anosognosia, if you have a left-sided infarct, you don't notice the left side's out, you don't know left side of the world, you just have anosognosia. That's what kind of happens. You have to find a way to break through the denial. And usually, it's consequences often, that's what it is. Yeah.
Consequences.
Yeah. Relatable sources. Relatable sources are extremely powerful. Here's my patient, had a stroke because he or she didn't listen to me. Tell your story.
Next natural question. What kind of roof do you have on your house?
A tile because we live in a fire zone.
Slate?
Yeah, it's like a synthetic kind of slatey thing, yeah.
Synthetic
Why?
slate tile. I asked Martha Stewart, she said, which house?
Oh.
Yeah. So,
I wish I could say that. That'd be nice.
That's good.
So I really want to try to help you guys, give you useful information in terms of, because my thing, I will say, was always never wanting to even be, I didn't want anybody to know I was doing this, right? So I did not intend to build a practice from it, right? I was intending to do good, to use media. It seemed so powerful to me, and it seemed like something that could change things for the better, but needed all of our sort of presence in order to do it. Now, that was naive, but I've always kept the practice and the media part very, very separate. For me, that was important, and I've been unbelievably grateful to have had these, to be able to be creative, try to do good, learn about these disciplines that are so powerful in our world today. I am unbelievably grateful for what I've been able to do, but there was no blueprint, there was no expectation, it was just an exploration. And I noticed, I was thinking to myself recently, God, when I was 30 and 40, I just said yes to everything all the time. I don't do that so much anymore. But I think saying yes and exploring and keeping that compass in front of you and paying attention and doing what's good, I think that all.
Write that on a whole page. Just say yes, right? Maybe you have heard that before. No map, no blueprint, no map and no rules, no instructions for leaders.
But know what you want to do.
Last question.
If I were building a practice, I would have done this very differently.
Last question. What's the most important thing you ever learned?
To listen to my wife. Is she here? So that was.
Yeah. All right.
But here's another piece though is I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful for these experiences I've had with people, to listen to my instincts, and that's a big topic. It's not just one thing, but to listen, live with integrity, because that helps you hear your instincts, and then really listen to them. Stay connected and integrated to your whole being, so you can hear these things. And then follow them and listen to them. And it's not always going to end up good. I always used to tell my residents, I go, look, I would say, look, you're going to make a choice and you may be wrong. And I have no problem with that. But if you don't know what you're going to do as a backup plan, that's where I'm going to get you. I'm going to kill you. So think it all the way through.
The passionate, the one and only,
thank you guys.
Dr.
Appreciate
Drew!
it. Thank you.
Hey, it's time for my favorite part of the show within the show. It's the home repair section with CEO of HomeRepair.com, Mr. Tony Silva, where we've been talking about the mistakes to avoid if your home was damaged in a storm. What's number 3, Tony?
Big mistake, number 3, is not filing a claim with your insurance company if you have damage, right? So if you've been paying attention and you realize, hey, you know what, maybe something happened to my house. You call the expert, they come out, they say, yeah, some stuff happened. Maybe, look, we're all distracted right now. Social media, the world is kind of on its head right now. So we might not be completely paying attention, but a lot of times, maybe you miss this. It's not filing a claim with your insurance carrier if you have damage. And here is the number one reason why people don't file a claim. And it's the biggest misconception ever. People don't file a claim with their insurance carrier because they're afraid their rates are going to go up. People think their homeowner's insurance is like car insurance. And if I file that claim, my rates are going to go up. And Clint, my house payment's already high enough here in Pennsylvania or wherever we're at in the Northeast or anywhere in America, right? But here's the deal.
Yonkers, Rochester, Long Island, New Jersey, you're already paying a lot, but here's the deal. Filing an insurance claim on your house because of a natural disaster, they cannot raise your insurance rates because of that. Why? Because you don't drive your house. You can't drive your house into the thunderstorm. It literally just sits there. It can't move. I mean, unless you live in a trailer home, right? Maybe, but look, for the most part, nobody can move their house. It's not your fault. You didn't drive the house into the hailstorm and cause $40,000 worth of damage. You didn't do it, right? If it's a natural disaster, they can't raise your rates. Now, that being said, I mean, Clint, I've been doing this for more than 30 years. I've helped more than 17,000 people repair their homes, 1,000 people alone last year just in the Northeast, right? Now, here's the deal. Some people's rates do go up. Why? Because whenever there's a catastrophe like we had in Superstorm Sandy up in the Northeast, right? Everybody's rates go up. They have to recoup their losses. So, I mean, this conversation I personally have had with homeowners so many times, and I'm compassionate about it. I get it. Look, this is what I do every single day. So, of course, I know everything about it, right? But somebody who is an accountant and goes to work and, counts money every day, they have no clue what this is all about. But this is what I'm passionate about. It's what I know. And the reality is that your rates don't go up if your home is damaged, except for your rates will go up in the event you have a natural disaster because they have to recoup their money. So I used to tell people this: you're going to pay more money in your homeowner's insurance anyway, because a whole bunch of bad stuff happened to a whole bunch of your neighbors, and I'm going to repair all their houses, right? And they're going to all hit the home repair lottery, and you're going to pay for their stuff. Why not go ahead and get your stuff paid for sure anyways? And here's the crazy thing about it. A lot of people are like, I don't know, sounds too good to be true. Look, I get it. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck, but I'm telling you, this is not a duck, right? If you look at the reviews, if you really do your research on this, if you call your insurance carrier and ask them, hey, is this legit? We had a pretty good hailstorm come through and XYZ happened. What happens with that? It's legit. The challenges are, now that you realize it's not a scam, it's actually real, stuff happens. Look,
There's a Cat 4 hurricane headed right now for Louisiana and Texas. Do you think for a second the insurance carriers are not going to rebuild those houses back to where they were? Yes, they're going to do that. A hailstorm, a windstorm, a tornado, a hurricane, it's all the same. The fear of my rates are going to go up, mistake number 3, don't be afraid of that. It's a natural disaster. Other people are going to get their homes renovated. Don't be misled by that fear. It's, you know what? Stuff happens. That's why you've been making those deposits into the piggy bank for the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's time to break the piggy bank and get your house fixed.
He's been fixing houses for more than 30 years. He's the CEO of homerepair.com. Check him out online or give him a call at what number, Tony?
877 Red House.
More of the 6 mistakes to avoid if your home is damaged in a storm next week, right here on the greatest show of all time. Thanks, Tony.
Great. Thanks, Clint.
All right. We are fortunate to have Mr. Greg Hanna back with us again this week. He's the CEO of Toss C3. What's Toss C3 all about, Greg?
Clint, you know what we do is we protect clients from getting hacked by ransomware, working from home, putting their data and their work product in the cloud so they can get through this pandemic, get through the coronavirus without having any issues at all with technology, and making sure that all of that stuff is compliant, secure, and reducing risk.
Now, I did some research on you. I saw a video of you speaking at NASDAQ pretty recently. You work with financial firms. Who are some of the firms that you work with, or what kind of clients are you working with?
I work with customers of all sizes. Intel is a large customer. Marathon Oil is a large customer. In the legal industry, I've done work with Dwayne Morris, with Patton Boggs, with Cravath, Swaine and Moore, which is a giant firm like Skadden Arps out there in New York. And that's the kind of clients we work with. I work with hospitals like Partners Healthcare Systems, the largest systems here in Massachusetts and New England.
You've done quite a bit of speaking. Tell us about how you became a speaker and what's that all about for you.
I think you have to really focus and be a world beater in what you are designed to do. And I know everything that you could possibly want to know about being safe from cybersecurity, about covert and cyber terrorism and all of those things. But when it came to speaking, I hired a coach. You know, when it came to doing my marketing, you know, I have a consultant. And it was critical to be able to do that because that's not my forte. I know you guys came out here last November. I was able to buy this big, beautiful new home from work that we've done together. And because my business is going so phenomenally well, you know, and I had to get a home inspection. And I wasn't about to do it myself. So I wasn't going to go crawl up in the attic or down in the basement or up on the roof. So I hired a professional home inspector. And that's the thing that my clients love about me especially, is because we speak geek and we speak English. So they get the best of both worlds. We're awesome people, great consulting, and they know that they know nothing about technology, and we do. So we focus on what we're great at, help our clients focus what they're great at. The rest of it, I personally outsource.
Hey, I know a lot of smart people listening to the greatest show of all time are smart enough to know that they don't know when it comes to cybersecurity and cloud computing and using services on the cloud, outsourcing, not owning your software, but using software on the cloud. And if you want to contact Greg Hanna for consulting purposes in those regards, how do they do it, Greg?
Well, they could call me at 888-884-8677 or send me a direct email to Greg, G-R-E-G, at tossc3.com.
You know, we're recording this on Zoom, and I see in the background a whole bunch of famous people. Who's that? Suzanne Summers there, Ice-T and Coco, and
Arthur Stewart,
and Damon John, right? Next week, I want to have you back next week and talk about that. I'm very curious about that stuff. So we're going to have you back again next week, okay?
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day. You know what? I love people, and I love tech.
All right, thanks. That's Greg Hanna. Thanks for joining us on the greatest show of all time.
All right, everybody. I know this is not a political show, and I really try to keep things just about business. But here we are, a little more than a week from the election. And I just wanted to make an impassioned plea to you, my brothers and sisters in New York City. You know, it breaks my heart what is going on in our beloved New York City. You know, I grew up in New York City. You know, I went to PS 40 and Junior High School 104 and Stuyvesant High School. And I still have an apartment in Midtown Manhattan. And I love New York. And it breaks my heart to see what has happened to our city under the leadership of de Blasio and Cuomo and the influence of the Democrat Party. Today's Democrat Party is not your old Democrat Party. If you are a fan of the Democrat Party, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff that they did years ago, but unfortunately it has been taken over by radical people who want to change America. And if you don't believe it, Jesus, just open your eyes. Listen to what they're saying. The real power is in AOC and Ilhan Omar, and they do not want capitalism. They do not want energy as you and I know it. They want to do away with fossil fuels. And I get it, fossil fuels pollute, but it's millions of jobs and it's independence from the rest of the world. The reason we were fighting in the Middle East all these years is because of energy, because of oil. And finally, under the leadership of Donald Trump, we have become energy independent. And we need to maintain our independence and our capitalistic society. Hey, if you're listening to this show, you probably already believe in capitalism, but I'm just making this impassioned plea to anybody who may be on the fence about voting for the bad orange man. I know the orange man is bad. I know you may not like the orange man's style. I know you may not like the way he talks. You may not like the way he tweets. But if you want to get back to a thriving economy, if you want to avoid future shutdowns, I mean, we have got to change the leadership of New York, or else New York is going to really face some very difficult times. You think it's hard now? I mean, look, I'm coming to you now from Acapulco, Mexico, right? Those of you who are watching the video of this broadcast, you can see my home in Acapulco. And the only reason I bought this place is because I could see that New York City ain't gonna be what it was unless we get rid of the Democrat leadership and unless we can hopefully avoid a socialist takeover of the United States under the Trojan horse that is Joe Biden. He is an empty suit. He is not the moderate you think he is. Aside from his corruption, his just blatant, horrible corruption and penchant for inappropriate touching of young girls. I mean, there's so much wrong with that guy. There's so much wrong. I really don't know how people can be oblivious to his imperfections, to his flaws, to his just ridiculous positioning as a candidate. It's so crazy that the Democrat Party hates old white men and they also hate racists, and yet they put up the oldest, whitest white man who is a racist and made him their presidential candidate. And, you know, Nancy Pelosi was talking about the 25th Amendment, and she said, hey, this is not about Donald Trump. We're not talking about this for Donald Trump. No, they're talking about it for Joe Biden. They're going to put Joe Biden in. If they can steal this election, they're going to put Joe Biden in for the shortest possible time I doubt if he would even last 6 months in the office of president. And they're going to instead flip it over to Kamala Harris. And then we're going to have a candidate. Then we're going to have a president who was the worst candidate of the whole entire Democratic primary. She's the worst. She got out before it even began because she couldn't get any support. Everyone knows that she is terrible. And she's the most liberal person in the United States Senate. She's more liberal than Bernie Sanders. And is that who you really want? Are you really going to vote for the Harris-Biden ticket? The Harris-Biden administration? Please, do America a favor and put your personal feelings about Donald Trump's style and personality aside for as long as it takes for you to fill out a ballot. And just think about what you want for America. If you want to have an America that is not locked down, then vote for Donald Trump. If you want to have an America that is not masked, not forced to wear masks, if you want an America that is not in a constant recession or even a depression, then please, if you want an America that is not dependent on foreign sources of oil and energy, if you want an America where the stock market is booming instead of crashing, please, if you want an America where you can speak freely. I mean, look what happened with the New York Post, the fourth largest circulation newspaper in America, founded by Alexander Hamilton. Please, you gotta vote for the man who represents capitalism, freedom, prosperity, the Second Amendment. I mean, guys, look what happened in Nazi Germany. First, law and order. How about law and order? First, in Nazi Germany, they defunded the police. Then they took away the guns. And then it was all over. That's what's going to happen if Joe Biden gets in power and Beto O'Rourke, hell yeah, I'm going to take your guns. That's what he said. Believe what they're saying. The Green New Deal. Joe Biden said he is going to shut down the oil industry. Okay? He is going to have his own version of the Green New Deal, which is the Green New Deal. Go to his website and read all about it. It's a ridiculous proposition, and if you're really a New Yorker and you ever want to see New York City get back to the way it was, or anything close to the way it was, we need to, number one, keep Donald Trump in office, and number two, get rid of de Blasio and get rid of Mario Cuomo, because those Democrat leaders are forcing our beloved city and even our state into high unemployment and low prosperity, okay? The last time I was in New York, it broke my heart. There was nothing going on. There was nobody there. It's no longer New York the way it was. It's not even New York the way New York was during urban blight. And I know, because I grew up in New York of urban blight. New York is now the museum of the city of New York. It's a living museum of what used to be, and we can't do this anymore. So please, I'm pleading with you on Election Day, please vote a straight Republican ticket. Please do it. We need you to do it. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Greatest Show of All Time. I'm Clint Arthur. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next weekend, right here, Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. on 77 WABC with The Greatest Show of All Time. Good night, everybody.
The greatest show of all time.